818 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. So, on the ballot this fall, there will be the race for insurance commissioner without an incumbent in it. It was announced last week, or Jim Donelon announced. Was it last week or early the week, or late the week before? Again, time doesn't exist. Where Donelon announced he would not be running for a fifth term. Joining us now is a guy who really pushed them to the brink in the last election and is taking another stab at it this time. Now does not have to face Donelon. Tim Temple. How are you this morning, sir?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing well. Just running hard.
Yeah, glad to have you on. Oh, so you're still running, like you don't have, you can't like slow to a jog for just a minute because the incumbent's not there anymore?
Not at all. It's a flat out sprint every day.
So we'll get to some of the, more newsy items in a little bit. Let's start by rewinding the clock for those that don't know you yet. Because last time running for insurance commissioner was your first time running for anything, really.
Any office, much less statewide, correct.
So your resume brings us what?
I've got over 2 decades of relevant insurance work. And your listeners probably have already heard me say this before. I grew up in the industry. I wore a lot of different hats over the 20 years. I was a professional insurance agent, reinsurance broker, worked for some claims companies, worked for some commercial trucking companies, just wore a lot of different hats. And, I think it's really relevant this race more so than ever because of the crisis that we're facing with our auto, our homeowners, our commercial trucking, our commercial property now. That's a big, that's blowing up in South Louisiana. There was a great article in the Lafayette paper last week about that. And then, of course, federal flood program is blowing up. So I think now more than ever, we need a commissioner of insurance that is from the industry, that understands the complexities of it, because as you and I have spoken many times, it's complex.
Yeah.
Any one of those things, you can just, you go down a rabbit hole talking about them. So now more than ever, we need someone with the background and experience, and I have that.
Well, and one of the things about the complexities is, of all the different balls you're juggling, of all the different balls the insurance commissioner is juggling, if you have your eye off any one of them at any given time, they all drop. And we have a problem in Louisiana, specifically between homeowners, car insurance, and flood. Between those three, all three require a ridiculous amount of attention to where you almost can't keep your eye on all of them at the same time.
Correct, Brian. It is. You have to. It is. It's juggling the balls. And, right now, everyone's talking about homeowners. And it certainly is a crisis. And it seems to be, for most people, it's the biggest crisis. But again, we're still facing an auto, our personal private auto has been a crisis for years. We're not talking about solutions right now on that. Everything is homeowner focused. We've got a commercial trucking crisis. We have drivers and loggers and, folks that drive, day trucks everywhere. They can't afford the insurance they're getting. We're not talking about solutions, for that right now. We have got to, there's an opportunity with this legislative session and beyond to really get in and start doing more than just one item at a time. It's multitasking.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of those items and stick with the property insurance, or the homeowners insurance for just a minute. Jim Donelon, right before announcing he wasn't running for another term, got pushed through a special session, a pool of money to attract more insurers by, greasing would be the wrong word, but by offering up incentives for people to come back and do business here. And it looks like he's landed a few.
Yeah, that was, so let's see, that special session was the first week in February, I believe.
I think so.
And he requested $45 million and received the money. And it was touted, it was sold as to attract new companies to come in the state of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. Well, we see there's a list of, I believe it's 9 companies that have applied. I believe 8 of those already right in the state of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. So we didn't attract new companies.
Right.
All it did is incentivize, I guess that's the right word, companies to continue to write in Louisiana more business. But I don't, and look, I was on your show before, and I'm critical of the program. I don't think it's going to do what we're being sold it's going to do.
Okay.
Which is to take policies out of Louisiana citizens. That was identified as the major component behind this. This bill that was passed, unlike the prior bill in 2005 or 6, 7, and 8, or 7, 8, and 9, whatever the 3 years were,
post-Katrina was the
required that the companies that receive this money write 25% of the book of business out of citizens. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't require it. So what is the incentive for the companies to go and do that? And it is a problem. I mean, listen, we know it. If you're in citizens, insurance was already unaffordable.
Right.
By law, it has to be even more unaffordable because of the 10%, rate increase over the market average. So, yes, I believe some of the companies will come and write some policies, but we aren't addressing the true nature of the issue, the crisis.
Is there a want, or should there be a want on the insurers who are getting this money to go into Citizens, because you've got a pool of clientele here who you can offer a better rate than they're paying? It's easier business to court.
It is, but all we're talking about right now is just premium. We're not addressing the underlying issues, or why is the premium so high. And again, we've had 12 companies go insolvent after the 4 hurricanes that hit us in a 12-month period. We've had most recent article I saw, 46 companies. And again, I don't know if that number is accurate. I believe it's accurate, but the Department of Insurance doesn't publish any data like that. But the article says 46 companies are no longer writing homeowners business in Louisiana. Why is that? I've not seen any analysis. I've not seen any, exit interview of the companies as they leave the state and say, why did you leave?
Right.
It's easy just to say, well, there were a lot of hurricanes and they don't want to be here anymore. I think that's a smokescreen. We need to look and see truly, why did they leave? Is it the regulatory environment? I believe that's part of it myself. Is it just the statutory environment, just the laws that we have on the books? I believe that's also part of it. And you'll see this legislative session that there are some bills being presented to help, maybe I'd say, rebalance that, if you will. But again, it's not being talked about other than at the legislature. We need to get people involved and help them understand that this is important. And if we really want to lower insurance rates, we have got to focus on competition. It's supply and demand. We don't have the supply.
We are talking with Tim Temple, candidate for insurance commissioner. That'll be on your fall ballot. Let's move from homeowners to car insurance, because this is one, you and I have joked about this before, saying when people move to Louisiana, they are the biggest surprise to them is the humidity. Surprise 1A is the rate of their car insurance.
That's right.
So what can we do short term? What can we do long term?
Well, look, let's identify why auto rates are so high. And there's been study after study and blue ribbon panel that the legislature's commissioned, and they always come up with a couple of things, but at the end of the day, we have a problem and the problem is that people file suit when they get in a car wreck, first and foremost, before allowing the insurance company the ability to adjust a claim.
Yes.
And I don't know if you call that fraudulent. I don't know if you just call that an abuse, but it's a problem. You as a claimant have got to let the insurance company at least give them the chance to make whole with you. And that's not taking place. The minute you pick up the phone and call an attorney, you've stopped the claims process from working, and it's now entered litigation. We have got to address that. And I know that, the legislature, they took that on in 2020. They were able to make some steps on that. There's more to be made. I hope to be commissioner and work with the legislature, work with the new governor to help continue to push some of those reform efforts.
Is there a way to stop lawsuits from jump?
I don't think you can stop it, but it's part of it's just an educational, it's an awareness.
Right.
Right now, again, I think we have a generation of folks that think that the first thing they do is call an attorney. I don't believe in that. There is a time and place for that when you've let the process run and you haven't been made whole. Your medical hasn't been paid properly, whatever. But you got to let the process run, and it's being interrupted.
Well, not even interrupted, because the process
doesn't even start.
The only part of the process that happens is the accident. So, and we're talking with Tim Temple, candidate for insurance commissioner. The 2020, the tort reform legislation that we saw, I don't want to say, well, yes, it was overpromised, but it is still a factor here. It is still a piece of the puzzle.
It's certainly a factor. And, and that also plays a big role in commercial trucking, which, we said earlier, that's been a crisis in the making for years.
Yeah.
And I tell you, especially you go North Louisiana or even in the Florida parishes where agriculture, where timber, forestry is a big economic driver. The folks that drive those log trucks and work in the woods to harvest timber, the rates that I hear are just, they're so high that if I told you the numbers, you would just think I'm making them up. They're when I say they're unaffordable, I cannot be serious and stress that enough. It's literally people can't operate their business 24/7 and make enough money to pay their insurance rates, the quotes they're getting.
answer here is competition, though, right? I mean, well, one of the I see. I'm guilty of it too. I try to say the answer, and not one of the answers. One of the answers here is increased competition, which is something that Commissioner Donnellan has touted for years, but we're not seeing movement on it yet. How do you spark that when there's no one thing that sparks it?
Well, it's a it's a, what do you call it? A multifaceted, approach.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, this is the one thing I'm going to do. You have to, we're going to work on regulatory reform. We're going to make it easier for insurance companies to come to the state of Louisiana. We're going to work on tax reform. We're the second most expensive. We have the second highest rates in America for premium tax to the insurance companies, and that's not money they keep. That's a pass through directly to you and I. So it's the I said the tort reform that we're going to work on. It's not death by a thousand cuts, but again, it's multiple approaches of attack on that. And again, you can't take your eye off any one of those. You got to push them all at the same time, and some will get make more ground than other. But you start doing that, and Brian, look, companies like Louisiana, they like the risk, they like the people, they want to be here, but we have to acknowledge that they don't have to be here. So we compete.
Right.
We've got to compete, and we've got to bring companies that want to be here, that their business model is not to come in, write cheap insurance, then when there's a hurricane, throw their hands up and say, we're out of here, and leave.
Right.
And that's what's happened.
He is Tim Temple, running for insurance commissioner. I tell you what, we'll keep you for like another minute or two. I know we're running long, but I want to keep you for another minute or two to follow up on that. How much of that is going to can be driven out of the legislature, and how much of that is a result of we are who we are?
Look, I don't believe that Louisiana is deserving, that the people of Louisiana deserve to pay the highest rates of insurance in America.
Sure.
Look, somebody's got to be number one. It does not have to be Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, let's acknowledge the fact that we want to be competitive. I just heard my congressman was on a different radio program talking about the oil and gas. And, it's in supply and demand. And we're talking about, not Louisiana, the United States, for several years has kind of taken a heels back attitude on production. We don't produce as much oil and gas in our country as we used to. And so we import a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's part of the reason why gas prices are so high. We're not producing it locally anymore.
Yeah.
The same with insurance in Louisiana. When you don't have local companies, when you don't have as many companies offering insurance, it's expensive. And I'll just leave you with this. The three charges the Office of Commissioner of Insurance, the Department of Insurance, you want to make insurance, you have to make insurance available, you have to make it affordable, and you have to make sure that the companies that do business in the state of Louisiana can pay claims when that happens. That's not happening right now. The fourth is one I'm going to add, is that when companies do have claims, when we do have catastrophes, they have to step up and pay the claims timely with the right staff. That was a failure that we saw starting with Hurricane Laura all the way through Ida. So it's a balance. Like we said, it's complex, but it can be done. Look, it's done in 49 other states. We can do it right here too.
Last one before I get you out of here. The 8 companies that have been approved so far, what kind of window is there to determine if this was actually a success or not?
I don't know. I was told, or I've heard that, that 40,000 policies will come out of Citizens as a result of these companies. That was the testimony that was given. It was said in the first year. I don't know if that means in the year 2023 or if that means, 12 months starting June 1st of 2023. Okay, so I don't know. It's semantics.
Let me re-ask the question. Is June 1st a magic number because it's the beginning of hurricane season?
Well,
is that a magic day to take a look at this?
I think we need to look at it every month, Brian, quite frankly.
Okay.
If we're going to try and measure the success of this program, I believe that the department is supposed to go back and submit to, do a report to the legislature, or at least to the joint budget, on a monthly or some type of regular basis and give them some type of time frame. That's the only way we can tell if it's successful.
He is Tim Temple, running for insurance commissioner. There's going to be a number of insurance topics in this upcoming legislative session. Let's get you right back on. Let's get you on again right before session starts to break those down.
Brian, I'm happy to come anytime and talk to your listeners.
Greatly appreciated, Tim. Thank you so much. We are long for news. Let's go.